What's going on, beautiful people? In this episode, I'm going to help you lose some weight and get to a place where you love what you see in the mirror. Now, what I'm not going to be talking about in this episode is nutrition. We're not going to talk about that, and I'm not going to be talking about exercise. And now you're confused because you know that these are the things you need to make progress. So what are we talking about? Now, exercise and nutrition, these are things that are for people whose mindsets are ready and they're on their way. They can implement a proper nutrition exercise program. But who I'm talking to right now are the people who are stuck, the ones who can't even get started. Or you get started and then you fall flat on your face, all right? And to get past this, you have to let's talk about where you are right now. So if you're listening to my content, then it means you want to make some improvements. And many people want to make big improvements because you don't like yourself very much right now. When you look in the mirror, you think to yourself, I'm fat, right? And that's a painful thing to think to yourself. But everything is telling you that you need to make some changes. You see it when you look at yourself. When you're walking up the steps, your knees are aching. When it's time to go to your doctor's appointment, you are dreading when they put on that blood pressure cuff because you're thinking, I know it's going to be higher this time. Or you're praying it's not. When they check your A1C, you know you were pre-diabetic last time and it was higher. And you're afraid this time, are they going to tell me I need to get on some insulin? Or maybe you're somebody who wants to be able to come off these things, but you know it's unlikely because you haven't gotten started. You're afraid. So what are you afraid of? And should you be afraid to change? So first I'm going to say, if you're afraid, you're right. You should be afraid. It can be scary doing things that are meaningful, things worthwhile, and get into a place where you love what you see and you love how you feel are things worth doing. So of course it's terrifying, all right? Now, you're probably also afraid that, what will people think if I fail again? Maybe you've told your family 8 times in a row that this was going to be the time you did it, but you failed, so you're afraid of disappointing people. Maybe you're afraid of disappointing yourself. Maybe you're afraid that you can't afford the lifestyle that is required to make these changes, right? You hear that eating healthy is expensive, right? You hear that hiring a coach is expensive. So what can I do? Now, in those places where you have these fears, you have to weigh them out versus the other fear, which is the fear of not changing. Because right now you are in misery, and nothing is worse than being in misery. And if you don't push past that fear and you don't figure out how to get started, you're going to look up another 5-10 years. And not only will you still be in misery, but you're also going to be older. And life is short. That's the reality of things. We're all going to die. That's true for me. That's true for you. But what we do have control of is the quality of life we have while we are here. And that's what I'm talking about. Making sure we use our time properly. And don't let fears of things that don't really matter hold you back, such as fear of judgment. Do not worry about other people's opinions of you. They're not the ones who are living your life. They're not the ones in your misery. It is you. So it is up to you to move forward regardless of that. Now, let's say you're ready to make some changes and now you're afraid that maybe you can't afford to do what it takes, right? I can't afford to eat healthy. I can't afford a gym membership. I can't afford a coach. This is what you tell yourself. But we all know that when our backs are up against the wall and we have to make choices and sacrifices that aren't revolved around us, we make it happen, right? When it's time to keep on that cable, you make sure that Comcast and Verizon gets their money, right? When it is time to get that oil change, you make that happen. And I get it, a car is important, but getting off of insulin, being able to bring down that blood pressure, and just get into a place that when you wake up and you look in that mirror, you can turn on the lights and say, whew, I'm beautiful. I think is worth so much more. But you have to get through that fear. So the biggest takeaway I want you to get from this is that you have the power to change and that you do not have to be in misery another day. All right? Any of those things that you're afraid of that's been keeping you stuck, you can move past them. And once you're at that goal and you look back, you're gonna think to yourself, man, it wasn't that big a deal. I wish I did this sooner. All right? Because even though you have the power to change, what you don't have the power to do is give yourself more time. Time is short, time is precious, so stop wasting it.